Hi guys, it's Becky, and I have an idea that I wanted to play around with, and I've had it for a little while, and that is to make a little studded choker using these hot pink pyramid beads that came in I think it was the June Beads to Live By subscription. So I've got these, and then I've got some Tila beads. They are almost black, but not quite black. I don't know if you can see with the light behind, but they are a very, very dark red. So I'm going to be spacing them with those. And then I've got on the sides of this, between where everything's going to go on there, is some pearlesque chain. Now this is a SilverSilk knitted chain. It's very similar to the capture chain where you've got the ball chain in the middle, but over the ball chain there's kind of like a tinsley thing that's been knitted. So you have this color underneath here, and then you have the wire over that. So the pearlesque chain for this color is one that was actually a collaboration between SilverSilk and Jesse James Beads. And I got this from the Jesse James Beads site. I have not seen this color listed on the SilverSilk site, but I'll link to both the listing on the Jesse James Beads and the SilverSilk pearlesque chain. I'll put that in the description so that you can check them out and see what other colors they've got. I don't know how long this will stay in stock. It was still in stock the last time I checked. But it's really cool, and I've actually used it for a couple of different other projects that I've used, but I wanted this to be on the side because we have this really cool pop of pink between the black chains, and I think it'll look really, really great with these beads between each leg of these, like that. I'm really, really looking forward to doing this. I know sometimes it's hard to see the thread when I use black thread and black things, but black thread will blend in with this. And I'll try to get in close so you guys can see what I'm doing. But I'm going to be using 6-pound Fireline, and I'm just going to pull off wingspans worth. It's not going to be enough for the entire necklace, so I am going to be adding thread. But when I get to the point where I add thread, I will show you guys how we do that. The capture chain slash pearlesque chain, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of hide where you add thread, rather than when you are using a wrapping around leather. So what we're going to be doing too with this is, instead of wrapping around each leg of these, I'm going to be sewing through the chain, so you won't actually see the thread on the outside of it. You can wrap around if you're going to do something similar to this. You can wrap around each leg of the chain, and that's going to be probably easier to do if you've got a loom or something like that. But I'm going to be holding it so that I can bend the chain, and that way it'll be a little bit easier for me to thread my thread through the capture chain between my beads. So I know I just described something a little bit different than what you were expecting, but that's what I'm going to be doing. So I've got a big eye needle. You can use a regular English style beading needle, like 10 or 11 should work just fine for that. And I've already got it cut to the right length and put into the double end SilverSilk clamps for the capture chain. I did this off camera because I had a little bit of difficulty doing it. The thickness of the wire is a little bit different than I'm used to with the capture chain. So it kept slipping out, and so I kept having to do it again, and I finally got it to work. So I did that outside of this. There are some great video resources on the SilverSilk and More YouTube channel, and I would suggest looking there for resources on how to get this in there. It's basically like a clamp, and then you stick both chains in the channels, and then use some pliers to clamp it shut. That's how it works. You may have actually seen me do it before on my channel. All right, so I'm going to grab some of my thread and I'm going to attach my thread to this pearlesque chain. I'm going to go through a couple of the knits so that I can tie a knot and attach my thread. With my knot, I'm just going to leave myself between 4 and 5 inches. Doesn't really matter too much. It's not going to go very far or anywhere. I just want to be able to tie a secure knot and have an end that I can draw through this end of the chain later at the end of this. All right. For this knot, I'm doing a surgeon's knot. It is like a square knot, but when you do the second overhand, you wrap it around the loop twice. All right, so this is ready to go. I'm just going to move that out of the way. And I did this about 1, 2, 3. You can kind of see where the balls are inside of there, about from the third ball from the clamp, so that the bead that I'm placing here isn't too close to here and moving this out of place. So I'm going to add a bead, and just on the ends I have these bicones. They're like these purple electroplated bicones. These are about a 4mm bicone. And then I'm just going to go into this little knit. You can see these knit bumps. I'm going to go underneath it, through it. You can see them. And under the tinsel, so it's got a good solid grip. I'm going to go under that on this side in order to get this bead attached to both the top and the bottom of this chain. Now, to get my needle where I want it to be for my next bead, I'm going to take my needle and insert it into the capture chain and run it along through so that it's coming out next to one of these knit bumps. See how the capture chain hides the thread, so you can't even see that we're using any thread. I'm going to move my finger so that the white background gives you a better glimpse of the knits. This is a knitter's trick if you're using black thread to see your knits and to see what you're working on better. You can get or black yarn, you can get a white pillowcase and put it on your lap so that as you hold it up against there, you have a contrasting thing behind it in order to see what you're doing. So it's 2 bumps away from where my bicone is. I'm coming out of the pearlesque chain, and I'm going to go through one of my dark red Tila's, and this is a 2-hole bead, so there's a hole on one side and a hole on the other. So I'm going through that, and I'm going to pop it right into place right here. And on the opposite side, I'm going to count my bumps. Move my finger out of the way. So I've got 1, 2 bumps, so that I'm coming through the same bump on the way here. I'm going to go into that bump and then out of the bump next to it. So I'm sewing through the chain, not around it. And now that I'm coming out of the bump there, that's the place where I want my thread to be so that I can go through my tila. Get this a little tighten up. Whoop, I went through my pearlesque chain. That's fine because I want to go through it and see where I've got this bump here. Let me move my finger. So I've got, come here. There we go. So it's going in on this bump here. If I tighten it up, that's going to show it in the correct location where I want it to be. This is having trouble with it. So there we go. That's better. So it's going in this bump here, and I'm going to go out this bump here. So I just want to put my needle there. And this is why I'm holding it in my hand, is so that I can maneuver the needle, and if I need to bend the pearlesque chain out of the way, I can do that. There, so it goes into this bump and out of this bump next to it. And that puts my thread in the right position to add my next bead. My next bead is going to be my hot pink pyramid bead. Now, when you add the pyramid beads, you're going to want to add the bead, well, actually it doesn't matter. You could do one or the other as long as you're consistent from one bead to the next. So for this bead, I want my points pointing up. If I wanted my points pointing down so that I'm doing it from behind, I would start with the other side. So if the point is pointing up, I'm going to go through the left side. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other. 2 bumps is about the right spacing, and you can see it's the right spacing between this blackish bead, move my finger, and this one. So 2 bumps away from here, that's where I want to go through. So I'm coming out of this bump here. 1, 2. So I'm going to go into this bump and then out of the bump next to it. There we go. Woof. I'm going to try not to have my beads wrap around my ends weird. This is the big thing about not using a loom for it, is that then this isn't in a secure end, so it's a little bit floppy, and you can have your loop of thread go the wrong way through it or around it. But it's easy enough if you go slow to make sure. There we go. You can see it's like right next to it, right where I want it to be. And this thread is coming out right above where this second hole is. So I can go into that hole. Tighten that up a little bit. And I can do the same thing for the next bead by going down through this bump in my pearlesque chain, right where that hole is, and then out 2 bumps later. Let me get that to where the light is shining on right. I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down the length of this until I get to the end. So you've got this right here, going to go in here. And out through the next one. And just pops that right into place. So when I get to the point where I need to add more thread, I will show you how to add it and how to hide your thread end in the pearlesque chain. So I had promised that once we got to the end of this, that I would show you guys how to finish it. So I've had to put this down and work on some other stuff for a little while. So let's get into it. You can see I have finished basically sewing in all of my beads. Well, almost all of them. I still have a couple left over, but they'll be great for earrings. And I've got my thread coming out. I brought it out of the pearlesque chain here because that is the spot that I would like to attach my last bicone. Remember, I started with a bicone and I'm going to end with a bicone. And because we're not moving on to the next one, I just went ahead and went through a couple of wires here. And now I'm just turned this over so that I can get to this from the bottom of this. I'm going through my thread. You can see that there. Leave a little bit of a loop. Go back through my loop, basically tying a hitch knot or half hitch right here on this thread that I just put through the wire. And I'm going to do it one more time. I did have to add thread one time through here, and I basically ended it off and started it off the same way. And then when you've got this extra thread here, I'm just going to take my needle and sew back through the pearlesque chain a little ways, like that. All I'm doing is I'm going to hide my thread in the pearlesque chain. Pull that through, and now I can cut off the end of my thread real close to the pearlesque chain. And that's done there. And I still have my tail end over here, so I'm going to grab my needle and put it on that tail. And I'm going to do the very same thing. So it's super easy to finish off this. And then, now that I've got, since I started with these on here, I don't have to add them afterwards. But if you weren't sure on your length or anything like that, you could definitely do the weaving part first. And if you had a loom or something, it might make it easier on you. I like holding it so that I can move my stuff while I'm working with it. Or I like not having it stuck on a loom because I like to move it while I'm working on it. But that's just me. That's a me thing. You may be more comfortable on a loom. All right, so now that end is woven through. We can cut that off. All right, so as a collar or a choker, it would go around my neck, but I was also thinking it's almost long enough that I could have it be a wrap bracelet too. So I'm going to be using some extender chain. Well, it's not really extender chain, it's just some Rolo chain that I had, some large size Rolo chain. And I'm gonna see how long it needs to be and then cut it off there. But that way too, like, you know, sometimes, I don't know if you guys get this, but sometimes my neck is a little bit bigger than it used to be. Because, I don't know, it's weird. Really weird. So I've got some jump rings, I have a lobster clasp, and I have this chain. So I'm going to finish this off. Let me see, I prefer having my lobster clasp on the left-hand side, my left, when I'm wearing it. So I'm going to attach my lobster clasp to this end using a jump ring. And I'm going to attach one end of this chain to this end using a jump ring. And then I'm going to measure it and see where I need to cut the chain. In order for it to be able to be used as a wrap bracelet, because I would like to have that option of either wearing it as a choker necklace, which this will totally work for, or as a wrap bracelet. Just checking. Yes, perfect. So about that long is the length for necklace. I thought hold on. Did it come out? Ugh. There we go. All right. So to figure this out, so about there is for necklace. It might be the same for wrap bracelet, which would be great. Move back so you can see what I'm doing. I'm holding the chain. I'm pulling this around. You know, I think here is going to be, it's going to be good. All right. Let me grab my cutters. We will snip this chain right about here. All right, let's put it on and make sure that I was right. Yeah, this is going to be easier for me to do if I put it on my left hand. I just realized. All right. And I was right. That's punk rock, yeah. And it is long enough that I can wear this as a choker if I want to. Thanks for hanging with me. Bye!